Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back once again, and for the very first time, to the Farts and Crap Show, where today, as per usual, it's your host Anjo here with part 20 of Stick Tips. And today, I'm going to be talking about this controller, the Horipad FPS Plus for PlayStation 3 and 4. And unfortunately, the TLDR here is I was not impressed. In fact, I was far from not impressed. I was very disappointed. I've been waiting for quite some time to pick up one of these controllers, partially because they're not readily available in North America. This one that I picked up was actually an import that I got via Amazon, and yeah, there is a. I put this one through the ringer. I tried it on PS4 and PS3. I tried it on PlayStation Vita TV, or PSTV for short, because I thought, oh, it can communicate as a PS3 or PS4 controller. Maybe it'll work on Vita. No, it does not. Which, kind of a missed opportunity. Would have been great because really no officially licensed PlayStation controllers work on PSTV in like wired mode. It's wireless only, and officially only the DualShock 3 and 4 are compatible with that device. So I would have loved a wired option from a reputable brand. That would have been great. And honestly, it doesn't get much more reputable than HORI when it comes to PlayStation controllers. Especially if you want like an officially licensed product. I love HORI controllers. I have quite like several of them. But yeah, this one fell short of the mark, and let's get to why. So, first off, I just want to say the color, the branding is on point. I love the look of this controller, and I even love the way it feels. Like, the shape is nice. Unfortunately, they seem to cheap out on the shell of the controller here. It's also very lightweight. It's an incredibly lightweight controller. I don't think there's any rumble motors in there. But yeah, the shell, the plastic shell just doesn't feel right. Like, it feels kind of thin and tinny. Not like tin, but it feels fragile. And I'm not really a fan of that. One thing I love about HORI's controllers, very consistently, their analog sticks are great. Some of my favorites being on one of the other officially licensed PS4 controllers that they make, and I believe only sold in Japan, the HORI Wireless Controller Lite for PlayStation 4. And especially on the HORI SplitPad Pro for Nintendo Switch, those analogs are wonderful. And they even kind of look similar to these ones, so I thought maybe they're similar units. No, not at all. It's probably a similar mold, but the potentiometers are definitely different. The actuation on this controller is very strange as well. Like, the D-pad is a little bit too stiff. It doesn't feel like they're modern D-pads at all. Again, like, I love the way the D-pad feels on the HORI SplitPad Pro. This is a far cry from that. And like the travel distance on the face buttons, the circle, triangle, square, and cross or X, it's a little bit too far, and they're a little bit too mushy. And that actually applies to pretty much all of the inputs on this controller. And some of these complaints that I'm going to be talking about might be because my unit might have been damaged in transit. I'm not sure. Everything was there and nothing was like obviously damaged, but it might have been. Might have been. This is the box it came in. It was like already warped and everything. I'm very careful with my product boxes. Nothing was in English, really, at all. Even the manual, it had a bunch of languages. English was not one of them. And it's pretty self-explanatory controller. Like, it has like a 4 and a 3 with a switch. It's for if you're playing on PS4 or PS3. And then the other switch on the underside, I believe, is for turbo speed. If you actually use turbo for any of them. Fortunately, I did not really need instructions as to how to use the assign or the turbo functionality. It's very similar. Um, it's very similar to how their other controllers are. So it took a tiny bit of fiddling and then I figured it out. So not really an issue there. But yeah, I was not really impressed with the packaging at all, aside from the possible damage. And like, I don't know if the warping in the plastic was. Which, by the way, the entire casing is just plastic. It's not it's not a proper box as I would have preferred, but you know. Um and yeah, it's a little bit eh. Again, I don't like the shell. It looks okay, I guess. It doesn't feel good. That's kind of my main problem with this. Plus, like, it might have been because mine was damaged. I don't know. But the touchpad actually wiggled around quite a bit. You could actually move it a little bit too much. Side of where it was mounted. And nothing felt very solid on this controller. It's not. It was disappointing in the way that I've bought several of their more recent products, and this didn't feel on par with any of those. And on the back of the controller, again, like, it's two different pieces, the shell and the back plastic doesn't feel any better. And it has one back button, which is not a button, but actually like a small trigger, but it's very recessed, which made it harder to press accidentally, but also harder to press. Like, you have to angle your finger in a weird way to like even press it. So like, it's not even good for quick actions in first-person shooter games like this controller was marketed for. So I don't know why they made it like this. It's very strange and does not feel good at all. And the shoulder buttons they're quick stops. They're just buttons. Quite literally. I know I say on this channel a lot shoulder buttons, but they are literally buttons. Like, there's a conductive rubber membrane under the plastic mold housing the triggering device, and they're okay, I guess. They're not really tactile enough. Like, it's hard to tell when I've pressed it, even though it's a short thing. I guess you could just like mash it, but there wasn't enough tactile feedback for me to know when I'm pressing it. And there's, again, a lot more travel than it feels like there should have been. And again, it could have been because mine was slightly damaged, but after playing around with it a little bit, like, there's no visible damage, and like, all the inputs worked. but I don't. Yeah. And the way the cable is mounted into the top of the shell, it felt a little bit loose as well. Not loose, but not tightly mounted like on most of my other wired controllers, and how I prefer those to feel. Like the wonderful 8BitDo Pro 2, or the PDP Face Off Deluxe Plus, or even, some of the other HORI controllers I've owned. Like, it just definitely, everything about this controller felt like a first try. And that's kind of my main problem with it. It it just didn't feel good to use. And like, I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of having back buttons, like little back paddles on the rear part of the shell of the controller, that you can assign to any other input. And I'll tell you why. I hate stick clicks. It puts a little bit too much wear and tear on the analog sticks. I've always hated that as an input, like clicking in the thing to do a specific thing. Like even this music, this audio is from Dark Souls 2. Even in one of my favorite series of all time, Dark Souls. Yeah, the right stick click is to lock on, something you will be doing hundreds, if not thousands of times in any given playthrough. Which is why I always use a controller that has back buttons or back paddles, because I can just assign those back paddles to be the stick clicks for left and right on the left and right side. It makes things so much easier, especially in third-person games where L3 is your run. I hate that because you're pushing the stick almost in full in a direction and then you're supposed to click it down. That is not going to be good for your analog sticks. They're going to wear out over not a very long period of time, whereas you could mitigate that damage by putting the toggle on a different input, such as a back button or R1 or L1. Like, quite a few games I've played have put the run button on L1 or R1 and it works great. Or just let me pick what the inputs are. Custom mapping in the games is always appreciated, every time. But anyway, for a cheaper budget controller, I would forgive most of these gripes, these nitpicks, but it costs as much as a DualShock 4. And like I've said, I'm not a big fan of the DualShock 4, and I'm still not, but I prefer it to this. This is not like an alternative that I would spring for to save like $5 or $10. And having to wait extra time for delivery because of import, and like, things may get damaged in import as they often do. Yeah, and I've seen these controllers go for cheaper recently, and that's probably because, as they put here, first third-party PS4 controller with a touchpad. That was very early in the PS4's life cycle. Like, I think this controller launched in like 2015. I could be wrong, could have been 2016. And at the time, I had no idea who HORI was. No idea. I think I bought my first HORI controller in 2017? I think. But, yeah, at this price point, I was honestly expecting better. And, like, previously when I talked about, in a Stick Tips episode, the best PS4 controller, somebody left a comment that got me thinking, and it stuck with me. And they were like, hey, have you tried out the HORI FPS Plus? Like, that's a good controller, or I've heard good things, or something. Like, That's an officially licensed PS4 controller. You know, I was like, yeah, it's on my radar. I'm going to be talking about it at some point in the future. This was actually, I think, the first HORI controller I bought, the mini wired gamepad. And this is design-wise very similar to the Japan exclusive HORI wireless controller Lite, which, if that was not a Bluetooth controller, I would love that controller. But yeah, the mini wired gamepad isn't bad. The one downside to this controller, in my opinion, is the analog sticks. They don't feel good because it's just hard plastic. They're not like rubberized at all, so you'd have to put like analog stick covers on there or take off the analog stick like heads on a different controller and put them onto this controller. Hopefully they're the right size and everything. That's that kind of hot swapping doesn't work out most of the time. But yeah, I use this controller. I used to use this controller a lot, and like the D-pad was great. The quality of everything felt good except the shoulder buttons. And there's no touchpad, but there is a touchpad button, which is still very appreciated. And it does all the basic things very well. And it's only $30. Like, the fact is, they went for quality. And I don't care if it has all the bells and whistles, I want everything it does to do well. And right now, at the time of recording this video, there is no officially licensed PlayStation 5 controller outside of the DualSense, but we are getting one from HORI, the Fighting Commander Octa, which doesn't come out until August 31st of 2022. But again, this is a controller with some downsides because it has one analog stick. And you may be scratching your head going like, why would they not only put one analog stick on there? And I'm right there with you. I think it's stupid. But if you primarily use your console for fighting games, then yes, it makes perfect sense. And I haven't really found any like specifications on this controller or like instructions, details, that kind of thing. I'm assuming you could assign the one analog stick to be the right stick, but most modern video games require two analog sticks. So I love the look of the D-pad on this thing. It very much reminds me of like the Saturn D-pad, the best D-pad ever made, basically. And the analog stick it does have has an octagonal... Octagonal? Is that how you say it? 8-way gate. That's what they call it. Much like the GameCube controller. Again, one of the best controllers ever made. But, yeah. So that is wonderful. And knowing how HORI is nowadays, especially with their officially licensed controllers for Nintendo, and actually they make them for all platforms now. Yeah, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. They have officially licensed controllers. Like, HORI has proven themselves in recent years, and yeah, their quality has gotten much better over time. But yeah, again, I'm gonna go back to saying the Brook Wingman XE, man. This is the best PS4 controller. It is. Because it's compatible with so many things. And, much like the Horipad FPS Plus, it works as a PS4 controller or a PS3 controller. And it works on PS5, but I think only as a PS4 controller. So, like, playing PS4 games on PS5, you could use this. I don't think they've added support fully for PS5 games. I think they said they were going to at some point, but anyway, the compatibility is huge. Personally, most of the time I'm using my PDP Face Off Deluxe Plus that I've customized, or my 8BitDo Pro 2 for Xbox, I think is what it's called, which is not even on the officially licensed list, or not the officially licensed, the compatibility list for this product, but it does work. So that's pretty cool. But it is an officially licensed Xbox controller that works natively with Xbox One or Xbox Series X and S. So that makes sense. Because the main selling point of this controller, as it shows on the box, is Xbox controllers on PlayStation. But it works with a bunch of other things as well, including the Switch Pro controller and just tons of things. Anyway, but if you want to know like the whole thing, just check out their website, check out the page for this thing. But yeah, if you're like me and you have a bunch of controllers because you have a bunch of consoles, if you're a console gamer, there we go, and you pick one of these up, it will more than likely work with some controllers you already have. There you go. And it's $40. It's $20 cheaper than a full price Horipad FPS Plus. So, and yeah, this isn't sponsored or anything by any of these guys. Just to let you know, 100% my opinions. But yeah, like this controller, no, it's not impressed, especially for the price point. Like if I wasn't gonna go the adapter route and I just needed a new PS4 controller and I wanted something officially licensed, yeah, I'd go with the Horipad Mini. You know, it's the only one that's readily available in North America right now that's officially licensed. That's not a DualShock 4, as far as I know, unless I'm forgetting one. There's the Nikon wired compact controller, but I hate that one. It sucks. There's the Nikon asymmetric wireless controller, I think is what it's called, but that one is not available in North America. Again, you'd probably have to go through eBay or PlayAsia or something like that, and then import and wait for who knows how long. But officially licensed PlayStation 4 controller that is not a DualShock 4. It's available in North America. I think the Nikon Revolution? Those are sometimes available. But those are like 150. Pro controllers can get stupid expensive. Oh, there's the Astro one. That's a $200 controller. There's a couple of others. Anyway, point is, it's yeah, this one is a hard pass from me. There's way too many sacrifices. I don't know. It just doesn't. It did not meet my expectations at all for HORI. Like, I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed. And like, I've been avoiding making this video for a while because I thought, man, there might be some fans of this controller and like backlash and stuff. In my opinion, yeah, I just don't like it. I'm sorry. But the good news is that HORI just keeps getting better. They do. I love their products. I love their controllers. especially the Split Pad Pro on my Switch. That is the only thing that is ever connected to my Switch. In handheld, it's a game changer. So good. So good. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, though, guys. Thank you very much for stopping by. I greatly appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed, found it entertaining or helpful or any of those things. And yeah, I did the TLDR at the beginning, like, no, on this one. But yeah, those are my more detailed thoughts. Just, yeah, $60. At that price point, I would rather just get another DualShock 4. But for half the price, you can get Horipad Mini for 30, sometimes less, 25. But yeah, that $30 one, that's a new listing. That's a regular price on Amazon. I could have one within 2 days. So those are my thoughts. But yeah, before we get going, of course, a very special thank you going out to the Farts and Crap Show members, which at the time of recording this is just Novalis Draconis. But if you want to be awesome like Novalis Draconis, check out the join button down below. Tiers start at $3 a month for the basic one, and $10 if you want to be extra generous. But yeah, have a beautiful day, everybody. Thanks for stopping in, and until next time, take care.